Yeah, so before our little hiccup, timepieces.com.co.
Okay.
We've got a few of the artworks on there. Yeah, we've got some timepieces on there as well.
Beautiful watches, beautiful jewelry, and I love jewelry.
How do you procure your items?
So my watches, for example, I buy directly from the dealers. So I buy directly from authorized dealers. Yeah, I've got relationships with them around the world. I travel a bit to Europe, South America, and so forth, and I get them directly through them. Artwork, I buy directly from the galleries, and sometimes directly from the artist. Depends if they have representation or if they're solo. If they're solo, I get it directly from them. If they have representation, well, then you're forced to buy through a gallery and, of course, pay a bit of markup. But, that's the price of doing business, and it's all acceptable.
And how do you, I'm assuming like authenticity. So
yeah, so when you get it from the artist, obviously
Right.
it's authentic. Yeah, and then with the gallery, it always comes with a certificate of authenticity. So everything that we sell, about 95% of what we sell comes with appraisals, certificate of authenticity. So you got your appraisal for your insurance company and so forth. So, when you get it home, you hang it up on the wall. You can get it insured in case something happens. And
Okay.
Well, that's
Perfect.
great to know.
Yes.
Yeah. I have bought several pieces of Godard art from him, and we'll bring, like I said, the one I want up later. So let's start us off with some art pieces. Now, let me just say this. So now, before we even do that, so you travel all over. So you have home bases in Spain and Portugal, and
yes,
here, of course. And
so I used to have my places in Holland, Portugal, Spain, and here. And the last couple of years, I've let go of Holland and Portugal. So now I just bounce between the south of Spain and
the
here.
UK also.
And UK to see the wife when I have to.
We love you.
But mostly between Spain and here.
Okay, great. So let's start us off with our first piece, and my husband and I refer this as big boobs.
Big boobs.
But
so what do we have? So this is called Summertime.
Okay, summertime. Oh, because she's taking her.
Yeah, she's hot. She's just getting ready to walk through a fire hydrant.
Oh, okay.
It's by a artist named Miguel Paredes. Like many sort of he's been around for a while, but like many artists, they started off in the tattoo scene, like the urban scene, doing tattoo
I was
artists.
say that reminded me of like.
But he got really involved through his kids into the anime. So his kids were watching all the Japanese anime art and going through the comic books. And he picked up on that. So he started going into this anime theme, but yet with sort of a street art feel to it. And so he's...
That's amazing. Her boobs remind me of the comics in the back of Playboy magazine. My father used to get all these Playboy magazines as kids. We would like looking, and the only place I really liked was the comics in the back, and I forget what their name was. It was this blonde bombshell, and she had those boobs. I think that's what gave me boob envy or something. I'm not sure, but I remember those boobs. So she must have kind of got that from there, or he must have got that. But yeah, I'd see the Chinese.
Yeah.
And you can see like the tattoo art.
Tattoo art.
So with sort of like the brush strokes to it and, almost like an airbrush feel to it.
Yeah.
And, so I was at a event where he was there and it was an auction of his, his art. And, walking through it, this was one of the pieces. I ended up picking up a couple that day. But I saw this one. I was like, that's pretty cool. I was going to ask Kat's, my wife's opinion. Should we acquire this? But I decided to just sort of make the judgment call on my own.
Of course you did, because as any man would, who doesn't want that on their wall, right?
It's
boobs.
Boobs. Yeah.
Amen.
Well, I was just looking at the blue eyes.
Yes, of course, the one blue eye, right? as we get. Okay, fine. So now just give me one more showing of that so the camera can see it. Fabulous. And this is one of the pieces that will be available if you are interested.
Yes.
Now, this is my favorite. This is Michael Godard.
Yes.
And I have so many of his pictures in my home. I actually, at one time in my life, I had a tattoo of an olive lady on my hip. I have since had that covered because it faded and it didn't look good faded. But anyway, he has been my favorite artist. I don't know for how long, but I just love his ideas behind these pictures. I used to love to drink martinis. I no longer do that either, but I just love them. I don't know. They just make me feel a certain way that, I just love them.
Okay, what's the name of this one?
Yeah, so this is called The Heat of the Wind.
The Heat of the Wind.
And of course, this is by, like you said, Michael Goddard. Yeah, and he's a superstar. Yeah, he's a rock star in the art world. His original pieces, they command these days, God, $250,000 in some cases.
Wow.
This obviously is a limited edition. It's a giclée, which is a fancy word for saying it's a print. But it's a modern way of printing. So it's not just a photocopy like back in the day where you had a lithograph and they just made a stamp. They do it on actual canvas, and they use special printers that overlay actual paint on the canvas. On the canvas. And then this one is embellished by him as well. So there's a couple little touches which he then does go over with a paintbrush, adds a little touch to it, and then signs it, of course. So, it's part of a series. It's limited edition. These pieces, they're fun. They're fun to have. They're not overly expensive, and it's something where everybody can get involved in art.
Yeah. Can you lift them so I can see?
Yes.
Right. So this is, don't you just love the artwork in there? That's just
very
amazing.
cool.
Yeah, like the previous piece, of course, that's an original. That's a one of one.
Yeah.
They're going to be more expensive.
Right.
But you have a unique. It's something that you have and only you have.
Yes. So I have one of his that was one of the original before he got to be as huge as he is. And that was a martini. It was just a martini glass before the olive people, before any of that. And I got that in an art studio in St. Augustine.
Yep.
And I love that. And so then I've been adding to, of course, but I just love his work.
Well, because it's fun. It's
playful.
That's what I like about it.
He doesn't do any serious, it's fun. It speaks to you. You play cards, you go to Vegas, you're like, oh my God, this is us, martinis, cards.
Yes.
Smoke.
Kat, my wife, and I, we had the opportunity a couple of years ago to fly out to Vegas and actually have dinner with him and his daughters. And we toured the studio, and he had this like.
What's he like?
Well, he's slowed down a lot. So he used to be the proper rock star of the art world, right? Massive caner, party. You 4 o'clock in the morning, he's in the back room doing what he's doing.
Whatever.
And but these days he's gotten older. He's remarried, so he's cut the hair. He's no longer drinking. So he's matured.
Right.
How old
we
is
have
he?
yet to do.
He's 60. He's either late 50s or early 60s now.
He's got to be early 60s. Yeah.
But he's still a nice guy.
But you still picture him as he was back when he first
with
came
the
out.
long hair, the drummer, the rock star.
Yes.
How old was he when he started out? Do you know?
So
30s.
So he was about in his 30s because he's actually an engineer by trade. So he went to school, went to university. He's an actual graduate of engineering. And and he plays piano, and he's got a musical side to him, but he's an actual engineer by qualified degree.
Fascinating.
But he decided to pursue his trade into painting.
That is
so.
pretty
And
awesome.
our next one is going to be. This is one of Angie and ours favorites.
Okay,
If you can lift that up.
interpretation.
My interpretation was that it looked like a motorcycle gas tank and a bar with a do-rag hanging from it. That's what I saw. And then I saw the hand. So then I kind of got completely confused. And then I stopped looking at it because I love the red, white, and blue and the flag and all that. But I just wasn't sure what I was looking at.
I saw an egg and an iris, and then I saw the hand, and I'm like, well, maybe it's like an interpretation of somebody like playing guitar or something. But the
real interpretation is this.
So the real interpretation, well, and again, there's multiple interpretations.
Of course.
Right.
But it's done by an artist called Marcus Stavi. And
Marcus Stavi.
And he was, or is, one of the few remaining pop artists that ran around with Warhol back in the 60s and 70s. And that's where he got his inspiration from, his themes,
see that now.
the colors, the vagueness, right? Because as we know, Warhol was not a detailed painter,
No.
And that's where he brought us from. And just like Goddard has his olive themes,
Yes.
Kostabi uses male and female forms in a non-identity way. So there's no faces to him. They have bodies. So his female bodies are very feminine, male bodies masculine, but no faces. So they're all androgynous, if you will, right?
Okay.
So and this is called, Dreams of Gold, living the American dream.
Oh, because there's a gold coin. Is that for like Bitcoin?
It
could
money.
be.
It could be Bitcoin. It could be money. It could be anything, success.
Anything you want to put it.
It is just
Could be gold.
chasing.
Gold.
Chasing the American dream.
Yeah.
Chasing success. Whether it is
Almost kind of looks alien with the shape of the
That's
head.
really cool.
Yes, it's really cool.
But
I love the red, white, and blue because, of course, that's an American thing. And so, ballpark around, what kind of price are we looking at for something like this?
For something like this is actually quite reasonable. This, again, is a limited edition, so it's not original, but these go for around $1,900 to $2,000. To backtrack a bit, Summertime by Paredes, we're looking at about $6,000. Yeah.
Okay.
The Goddards, they range from 600. The limited editions range from 600 to 1,200.
Okay.
Very, very fair pricing.
Yeah.
This a little bit more because it's considered a sculptograph.
Yeah.
So it is. I don't know if you could tell on the camera,
It's
but it is
3D.
multiple layers.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And so they use wood. They use Lexan plexiglass, and it's painted on the different layers, and then adhered
That's
to
so
the
cool.
board. So it's quite cool.
I love that.
It's quite cool.
All right. And so now we have...
That is what you call mixed media, yes?
It is
Definitely mixed media.
Technically, they're all considered mixed media.
Okay.
For example, the Goddard we just saw, since it is printed, a giclée, and then with him doing the hand embellishments on it, it then makes it a mixed media because it has been printed and painted. So as long as you got two different forms of application on the canvas, it's automatically considered a mixed media.
Wow.
Yep.
Oh, that's so interesting.
That's awesome.
And now this one,
Oh, I love this one.
this one's quite cool. And
Yeah.
since
and it's very patriotic, which
100%.
I love and which we need in this country, patriotism and patriots.
yes, 100,000%. And this is also by Michael Goddard.
It is.
That's
Yes.
Michael Goddard?
This is Michael Goddard.
And that's mixed media as well.
It is mixed media, and it's a sculptograph. So it is just like the ones we just had. So it's multiple layers. So it's wood, plastic, all painted and printed on. Also hand embellished in certain spots by him. And it's called For Those Who Gave All.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah,
so the
that's
names
awesome.
on here are actual names of people that have passed in previous world wars. Obviously, you recognized his little olive men on
Newton.
Hiroshima, right? So
Yeah.
they're planting the flag.
Wow, that's so amazing.
Yeah. And this is the sculptograph version. He also has a printed version. And I think Fred has seen it. I gave it to one of our friends for Christmas. It is huge. It's about 2.5 times the size of this. And
Yes, I did see that. That's Jamie.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I gave it to Jamie. And even though they got 15,000 square feet of house, he can't find some wall space for it. But
Jamie, we love you.
I'm not pointing fingers. But anyway, it is cool, right? And
Yeah.
I love it. It's patriotic.
It
It speaks to the greatest generations.
Yeah, it
You
really
know,
does.
the ones that actually did give all to fight for our freedom.
True.
And I was at an auction of his, and I bought 4 of the bigger versions, of the printed versions, and I've actually donated them to charities
Oh, that's
to
wonderful.
to benefit
cool.
veterans
That's
and
really
so forth.
great.
That's awesome.
You know, because listen,
that's
we
wonderful.
wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them.
For sure.
Amen.
You're absolutely right. Amen to
You
that.
know,
Yeah.
and and I love this theme of it. I think it looks great. It's
Yeah.
cool.
I have a question.
Sure.
So underneath the glass, the flag and the names, right?
Yeah. So this isn't even glass. So this is all different. If
Oh.
you feel it, so it's
Oh, wow.
so it's plexiglass and it's painted on different layers of plexiglass and then sculptographed. So it is a
Wow.
3D.
Yeah, it's totally
That
3D.
is
I don't know if
really
you
cool.
guys
Yeah.
can see that, but
Yeah, I mean
it's
hard
very
to
cool.
get the angles right, on
Yeah.
the camera, but yeah, it is.
Yeah, but if you can
multiple
lift
layers.
it one more time so the audience can see how wonderful this is. Look at how beautiful that is and how you can see the dimensions in this, which is amazing. And to be honest with you, I didn't even notice it was done by Goddard.
Yeah.
You know. So wow, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it is one of my favorite pieces of his. You know,
yeah.
it's it's unique. It strikes a chord. You know,
Yeah,
and
it
also
does.
today, besides
Especially
being Cinco de Mayo, it is also Liberation Day for Europe.
yes.
Yes.
Okay.
You know, and this is what we're looking at. We're looking at, well, this obviously is depicting,
America, but
Iwo
it could
Jima,
be
planting the
anywhere,
flag.
right.
But, still, it's the American soldiers liberating Europe from the Nazis.
Amen.
And, and we
Victory
should.
Day.
Yes. Day of victory.
Yeah.
Amen. Amen to that. So now here comes one of my favorite
Oh, I love this one.
picture.
This one's really cool.
This is absolutely fabulous. And I know this is done on copper, which is another reason that I love. And of course, it's Jesus, who's my favorite in the world, in my soul, in the whole atmosphere, in the whole realm of life.
Yeah, so it's hard to tell in this light, but if you get in the right light, and you move
Yeah,
it around,
see,
you can
move it.
see the different dimensions and, the face. And
absolutely
This is done
incredible.
by a spectacular artist. Her name is Autumn DeForest. And
Okay.
I should say, everybody that I own, all the art that I bring in, I've met the artist. So I don't buy anything from an artist I haven't met.
Amen. Well, that's great.
And we had a chance, my wife and I, to meet
Oh, wow.
Autumn DeForest a couple years ago. And, we'd heard about her. We've heard the hype. We've seen the videos. And, she was a child prodigy in the art world. So at like 12 or 13, she was actually on the Oprah Winfrey show, invited out because of what she was creating. These massive artworks. She was painting in a way where she was literally suspended over these huge canvases, painting. Because she was a small child, but she was painting these massive canvases, like, for example, the size of the background here.
Wow. Okay.
Wow.
And obviously, if you're 13 and a small girl, you can't paint in the middle. So her father rigged a whole suspension thing where she would literally hang over the art, the canvas, and paint.
Wow.
Wow.
And it's very unique, very cool. Yeah, and she's got a very interesting take on things. And she is also one of the only modern artists to be invited to the Vatican to actually study their archives and paint a special piece for the Pope, which is actually still hung in the Vatican.
Oh, wow.
And this,
How old was she when she did that? Do you know?
this was I think she was like 18 or 19.
Wow.
She's only like 23 or 24 now.
Wow.
She's still just a
Okay.
kid, technically,
Technically.
And this is one of the pieces that she created from the inspiration that she got while hanging out at the Vatican.
Yeah, we have one more of her pieces right there, the blue, right there. And this is another one of her pieces. And this is what inspired her to, or they inspired to bring her to the Pope,
Yeah,
to
so-
the Vatican to paint. So this is more Vatican-ish if you think of it, although Jesus should be, more about
so-
the Vatican.
Yeah, so
But-
this is Gothic Heart.
Gothic heart, yes.
So Shroud of Turin, which is actually, it's a painting, but it's not a painting.
It's
it's acid
done
etched.
so it's done from the shroud.
Yeah, so her name of it is the Shroud of Turin. So it's her interpretation of
what
but yeah, so
you could see the layers that she would have, because when you look at the shroud, when they show you pictures of it, it's a vague blur. And what she did was she took it and you could see from the background, and then she layered more on top and layered more on top and layered more on top. It's like,
and then etched, and then it's etched with acid. So the darkness in it is an acid edge that she used on the copper plate.
but look at the eyes. The eyes just come alive. I don't know if you could see that, but that's just amazing. That's just what I dream of Jesus looking like. But I mean, her art is absolutely beautiful, and
it's cool. And
what a blessing she has.
Yeah. Yeah, and one thing that she does on some of her pieces, she marks it with her handprint. So just to mark that it's authentic. So this is her stamp of
authenticity. That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah, this one doesn't. But no, these are cool. And again, these are they're uniques, but they're variations, right? So even though she has multiples of this and the shroud, they're all done by hand. So they all look technically the same, but they're still considered uniques because she does them by hand.
Okay.
So they're not printed. They're not gone through a giclée process. She still does them by hand.
How many will she make of
So on this one, for example, I believe this is of a series of like 250.
Okay.
But they're all considered uniques and originals.
One of a kind,
So
original.
there's still
because
one of one.
Something in there that's different from the next one.
Because they're all still hand painted.
That's amazing.
They all look the same, technically, but they're all hand painted.
Right.
Okay.
So
Well, could you imagine trying to replicate something that you created
Well, as an
exactly
artist,
the same
you
over,
always look at what your original idea was,
but
and then
still,
from
how
there,
difficult
and that's
that
why
would
none
be.
is this exactly the same. You have the idea of what you think you did, and then you just try to reproduce it. That's why each one is a little bit different.
it's like baking a cake.
Yes.
Right? So you're not buying a Twinkies in the store. You're baking your own.
Yes.
And every one, even though they're somewhat identical, they're a little bit different.
Well, that's amazing. Okay, so now the next one up, and the last one that we're doing here, is, of course, another Michael Godard, and it is of yes, it's I'm buying this because I love it, and it's going to hang in my bathroom. And this is it.
I think this would be it. Yeah, so
That's it. I love it.
Bubbles in a bath.
Bubbles in a
Who doesn't
bath.
love
That's
bubbles
just
in a
what I
bath?
need.
just bathing in champagne.
Bathing in champagne.
As
Amen.
you should.
Yes, brushing your teeth with it.
Have you ever done that? Bathe in champagne? I have not, but I would like to try it. And that's going to make me do it.
Well, you make cheap champagne.
Cheap. I'm just going to be
Oh, you don't want to you don't want to take the risk of cheap champagne.
Not on this skin.
Bathing
honey.
in it.
Well, no, I've been to plenty of champagne.
How about a bathtub full of Cristal?
Yeah, champagne spray parties.
But
Yeah. But anyway, I just find that fabulous.
In case of Veuve Clicquot, you're good to go.
Yes, and being as though I am so into Godard, I definitely
Yeah, that's awesome.
And again, it's cute. It's the whimsical. It's the
very
whimsical.
whimsical. That's what I'm into.
Yeah, and this is again the subjective
Champagne and
part.
strawberries
Yeah.
Instead of olives.
instead of olives.
Yeah. Well, because he has the olives and he does strawberries.
Well, olives are martinis, strawberries are
grapes.
champagne.
And he's got grapes.
least
So he's got his
yes.
grapes, his olives, and his strawberries.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, how many olives can you make? You know what I mean? So you have to graduate. Let's go on the food
'cause,
chain. Next stop, bananas, Michael. Bananas.
In his paintings, the women usually, he has women represented as strawberries.
Okay.
Sometimes as grapes as well.
Okay.
But it's
and then
and
the olives are
men?
more men.
Are now more men than women, but they were women as well.
Yeah.
At the beginning.
Yeah.
So he's very fruitful.
He's very fruitful.
It's very fruitful.
Isn't that amazing? He is very fruitful. Yes, that came from Freddie.
Way to go, Fred.
Way to go, Fred. Okay, so now with that, we'd like to thank you so much, Jerome, for tuning in and coming and visiting us on
It's
set.
been an absolute pleasure.
And bringing your work and your artwork. I can't wait till Katrina comes home
Yes.
and have you both on.
That'd be great.
So you're leaving to go to see her in
Yeah,
Spain.
so hopefully in the next few weeks I'll be heading over to Europe to
Great.
see her.
We'll give her a big
Great.
hug.
Yeah. In the meantime, Kat, we'll take care of him. So he's in good hands.
Oh, and
okay?
I have one follow-up question. How did you become involved in art? Was art something
Yeah, that's a
that...
good question.
Well, so this is very interesting, right? My background isn't in art.
Right.
I started off duty-free wholesale, did international import-export for, over 20 years, became a management consultant, but dealt with watches and high-end luxury items on the side. As when COVID hit, unfortunately, Kat, my wife, she was made redundant, like many other people, and needed something to do. So we are friends with a French artist, Erwin Dezel.
Erwin.
Oh, yeah, we know Erwin.
And we were at this art
Hi,
event.
Erwin.
And she was like, oh my God, his stuff is so much better than everything that's being presented here. She's like, we should, present him and become his agent. I'm like, well, I'm working, but you should, right? I mean, yeah, sure, I'll help you out with that. So, long story short, in order to get her in front of, the right people, we had to make some dramatic purchases to be recognized for them to go, oh, who are these people? Mm-hmm. And then we could go, hey, by the way, she represents him.
Okay.
Is this something that you're interested in? So that is what we started doing and what she started doing. And then, unfortunately, she got picked up with a great new job in Europe. But this time we had amassed a massive collection of art. So what does a good husband do? He picks up the slack.
Yes, he does.
So that has then sort of evolved into me being the curator of our sort of, gallery and
Your
collection.
own galleria, yes, which is fabulous.
Yeah, so that's sort of how that's
Wow.
grown.
I
and
didn't
taken
know
place.
that. I didn't know
Well,
that.
well, that's a
So,
great
Erwin,
story. And
Yeah.
so from there, now I can tell you're really into it, and
Well, See, I've always liked art, right?
Yeah.
So growing up in Europe, we've got amazing history over there.
Yes,
so my
absolutely.
mom, even as a little child, my mom used to take me to all the museums and castles and look at all this art. So I've always had an appreciation of art and the culture and the history behind it.
And your mom is a wonderful woman. I know her.
she
She's
is.
so
Yeah, she's a
adorable.
character.
She's a character. She's a lovely character.
Lovely.
Yes. But yeah, so I've always had an appreciation of art and a knowledge of art. And, we've got some, really unique pieces that we've had for decades, at home as well. And my dad was into it. My dad loved the old Dutch masters, in his office back in Rotterdam. He had literally 20-foot canvases,
Wow.
depicting the old Dutch naval battles and all of that with the seascapes. So it's always struck a chord with me, and again, like I said, it's a very subjective thing.
Yes.
Modern art, by looking at something with just paint splashes, that's not my thing.
Yeah.
That doesn't speak to me.
Kind of like what's hanging on my wall there. Do you know that I did that?
But you see, that's at least a little bit more, different. In looking at a blank canvas with just paint splatter, a Pollock, Jackson Pollock. There's a not knocking on Jackson Pollock, but it doesn't speak to me.
Yes. Yes.
It doesn't speak to me. When we're back to the story of Autumn DeForest, one of the first pieces I saw of hers when we were at this event, we walked in, and she probably had about 40 original paintings. And there was one at the back of the room, which was praying hands, but it depicted the Albrecht Dürer, the original, from the 1600s, his prayer hands in like different colors and different variations. And it was a massive canvas. And I saw that, and immediately I was like, I need to have that. because it spoke to me.
Yeah.
It took me back to being a child, reading about the original etching of Albrecht Dürer with the praying hands, and then learning about it in college and art history and so forth. And there it was in front of me.
Wow.
35 years later.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
And created by a
a unique individual, and I'm like, I need to have that piece.
Yeah.
I need to have it. Doesn't matter how much it is. I need to have that piece.
Yeah. And that's what it is about art. When you see something that you absolutely love, if you can get it, you're going to get it. You know, it's kind of like for me for jewelry. Like when I see a piece of jewelry that I got to get it. I see it and right away I want it and I take it. But that is how it is with some art and people who are so into art. Well, I mean, I think this was a wonderful, wonderful thing that you did to come on and describe to us a little smidgen of what the art world is about and the pictures and the paintings that you have brought to for us to share. And anyone who is interested in purchasing or looking at all of his eloquent stuff that he has, go on to his timepieces.com.co. And you can just scour through it and choose whatever you like. I love all of his stuff.
If somebody wanted to purchase something, just contact you through.
So we can go online. If they feel more comfortable, we've got an eBay store. There's links online that will take you to the eBay store. We can do cash in person. We can do crypto. We can do credit cards. We're very flexible. We were shipping around the world, but right now we're just shipping within the U.S. because that's a little bit difficult at the moment. But
of course, we get that.
We're very flexible. We can ship. You can pick it up. You want to come take a look at it. You're always welcome.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, thank you for
coming on and
appreciate you
sharing
girls
all
having
your
me.
info. And we look forward to seeing you again.
Likewise.
And we love you. And we love your wife. We can't wait for you to get back, Kat. We miss you. And that's all I have to say. What do you have to say, honey?
That's all I have to say. We'll see you next time.
And we wish everyone blessings and a great week. Thank you for tuning in. See you next time on The Rocks.